What was ruined by rich people? Concerts. You can't even buy a beer at one for what a general admission ticket used to cost, and people still pay for it. There used to be a really nice big park in the center of the city where I live. Everyone would go there. It was a nice open space. Take your kids, take your dogs, enjoy the fresh air. Then some people from the rich part of town along the edges of the park decided they didn't like the noise coming from the park and pulled some bullshit to buy it out and walled it off so you couldn't go to the park unless you lived in that specific neighborhood anymore. The worst part is a ton of money was spent when they first bought it building it up, adding fountains and children's play areas and redoing the flower beds, and then no money or attention was given to it again and the whole place fell into disrepair, so now even if you live in the neighborhood you can't go there because everything is falling apart and overgrown. So the Osholes took the really nice park from everyone else and then neglected it until it became a shithole in the middle of the city. Thrift stores. Clothing brands. Carhartt, Dickies, Levi's, and many more. Like, why did a Dickies t-shirt go from $15 to almost $40 in a few years? Old school ski mountains with family vibes and stoner lifties rocking to music. We always watched those silly ski patrol movies about the big corporations coming in and making them yuppieville, and then it happened. Renting. The overabundance of Airbnbs and $2,000 studio apartments in rural/suburban places is outrageous and ruining the possibility for low-income and working-class people to have a roof over their heads. I live in New York State, and ever since COVID all these city richies are buying up all the cheap places in the country to try and make a profit, as if they need any more money. I stopped going to professional sports because I can only afford shitty seats. Not worth the effort anymore. Theme parks. Gone are the days when everyone was equal and you all had to queue, regardless of your income. And even until recently some theme parks gave fast passes periodically throughout the day. Now if you've got deep pockets you can queue jump, making your day a little better and everyone else's a little worse. Being poor. I can't even be homeless without trying to fight for a camping spot. Collecting. In the past few years the price of little collectibles and things of that sort have gone insanely high. Cards, action figures, you name it, just look up any sub for a hobby and you'll see people dropping your entire salary in one day. The standard of living for everyone else. Concerts. Instagram. When it first launched we were content to post grainy pics of our average-looking sandwich that we made ourselves. Or a mundane selfie. The background and the angle didn't matter. Studies show that since the wealthy started sharing their lives on IG, our collective standard of living changed. And it's trickled down to our influencers mimicking wealth down to average users. We're exposed to yacht parties. Expertly organized and color-coded walk-in closets, high-end facials and party-planned gender reveals. We're benchmarking our posts with professional photographers and videographers, elevating our expectations for everything. Edit, for those saying, just don't use it, it's influenced every aspect of society whether you're on it or not. Collectively society aspires to a flashier existence. Instagram has inspired new aesthetic-forward businesses like restaurants and coffee shops, tourism, home decor and types of homes, gyms and gym bodies. Fashion. Music festivals. Used to be a bunch of hippies having a good time and doing drugs. Now it's rich kids taking selfies dressed as hippies and doing drugs. The housing market. What is a green flag you've experienced on a first date that made you want to have a second date? We had been dating about 6 months and she showed up at my apartment with a homemade cake on my birthday. It might sound like no big deal to some people, but I had never dated a girl who cared about my birthday. I almost dropped to my knees and cried when I opened the door. We talked about everything and the conversation never dulled. Everyone at the party left and we were the only two people there and didn't realize it for a while. 25 years later and we're still running our mouths. When my girlfriend and I had our first date, her mom sent her with $50, just in case I made her pay, I guess, and since I paid, she made the waiter cry by tipping him the whole $50, apparently he was having a bad day. On our third date we watched a movie at his place. He remembered that on our first date I ordered a drive pepper with my meal and a chocolate chip cookie for dessert. He had Dr. Peppers for me in the fridge and made me homemade chocolate chip cookies. He burned them, but I married him 2 years later anyways. She came to my door and my puppy got excited. Without skipping a beat, she scooped up the dog and asked where the three of us were going. That was 19 years ago. Puppy is gone, but we've stuck together through hell and back. She appreciates all the small things. Biggest green flag. I realized I spent most of the date talking about myself, hear me out, and I've never once had that happen. I'm a very reserved and private person when I first meet someone, which has honestly made dating difficult for years. But he had such a way of asking questions, and keeping the conversation going, and encouraging me sharing my thoughts, opinions, and he also shared his to everything I said, that when our date was done, I realized I spent almost the entire date talking, which is so unlike me for first dates. I wasn't afraid of him judging me or not liking my response to something. All of his questions were sincere and he seemed to genuinely care about whatever the hell was about to come out of my mouth. I didn't have to think about what to say, it just came out of me and he met me wherever I was at. Maybe it sounds silly, but it was pretty magical. We still see each other. Not first date, but the moment I knew I was gonna marry this man. We went grocery shopping. It was about 9 p.m., we had both just been paid. The young lady in line in front of us had a very young baby, and was paying with WIC coupons and a food stamp EBT card. Her total came to about $22, and she was holding a $20. She looked dejected, and put back the one and only thing that was probably her splurge, a candy bar and an energy drink. Other than that, she had baby food, diapers, chicken, rice, bananas, formula, wipes, the bare minimum. I turned around to tell my now husband to hand me my wallet. I didn't have to. He already had his out, took out a $50 bill, handed it to her and told her to keep the change. He changed her week, he changed my life. That was the moment I knew he was it for me. Edit, y'all. I'm so glad I could share this with you all. I've shared the story before, but it's never taken off like this. I'm so glad my husband is as loved by others as he is by me. This is just one of his countless acts of kindness I've been lucky enough to witness over the years. Also, thank you for the awards, and my husband is humbled as well and says thank you for all the kind words. We met up for park beers on our first date. From the get-go, things just felt natural. The conversation flowed, we laughed, and it felt more like meeting with an old friend than a first date. When it got dark, she brought me back to hers to meet her cat, no innuendo, we waited a few dates to bang, and I just really love cats. We didn't plan to, but we met up the next day. And the next. Took her to a family barbecue 2 weeks in, and they loved her. That easy, natural feeling never left. And right now her cat, now our cat, is screaming at me for dinner. First date, she was driving us to a spot to go hiking, about an hour's drive. We're talking and talking, but every once in a while we wouldn't be talking, and it just felt so comfortable and not awkward being silent together. Pretty cool story. First date with my now wife. Had plans to go to a fancy Italian restaurant. I show up a bit early, dressed as nice as my wardrobe allows, a couple drinks before she gets there. But anyway, she arrives and we enjoy dinner, drinks, appetizers, dessert. The works. Anyway, when it's time for the check, the waitress comes over and says a person who prefers to remain anonymous picked up y'all's tab and told me to tell y'all to continue to enjoy the night. We were both shocked. I wasn't keeping tabs, but this was an expensive meal we just had. I tipped well, of course, and I thought to myself the only reason anyone would do that is they say an obvious first date unfolding and thought we were cute/happy/genuine or something. We both felt pretty special. Been married for 3 years. Together for 8. We eventually paid it forward to another young couple years later. Total boss move BTW. Definitely feel good about yourself. He took me out for coffee in a place that he made me choose. When I got there, he was already waiting and the way his eyes shined when he saw me was really adorable. We ordered and played chess, his hand was shaking. It's been a year and counting. We met in a nightclub, I took him home for some fun and games. When we woke up and had breakfast, he said, "What would you like to do today?" instead of just leaving his number and doing the dash. We've been together for 27 years and married for 15 of them, and we've almost never spent a night apart. We stayed at the wine bar much longer than planned, and we were trying to race to a restaurant for food before places closed. So, I offered her a piggyback ride to run it, due to her wearing heels. She jumped on, threw her arm forward and yelled onward. We didn't make it to the restaurant in time, but did end up at the nearby diner for a few more hours. Been married just past 3 years now, and leaving for our honeymoon, finally, thanks COVID, in 10 hours. Edit, well this blew up, thanks all for the awards. Wasn't technically a first date because we were still just friends. I still considered this one of our first dates. We were sprawled outside on the concrete of his front porch the whole night sharing our favorite albums together up for hours, just listening and talking. I remember feeling so happy, because we had just gotten close that year. It felt like I finally had the best friend I always wanted while I was growing up. We finally realized how long we had been up when his dad opened the front door to leave for work and was surprised by us sitting on the steps. We're almost 4 years married. I wouldn't have it any other way. He's the best friend I've ever had. Edit, I really didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. My husband and I were going through all of the comments this morning, it really made our day. Our collective advice is, always put kindness and sincerity first in your partner. We are very simple people. There were times that we had next to nothing, and love carried us through. Love is something that fame and money cannot buy. Do everything you can to be a good person for the people in your life. The right people will find their way to you, as long as you put love first. What are the best NSFW life hacks? If you are almost finished but you want to last longer, ask to change position. Those seconds can be really helpful. As a woman, guys can literally make us melt into a puddle by making noise during sexual escapades. Even if it is little moans, deep breaths, or simply uttering the word fuck quietly. 10/10, do recommend. Guys, think about how sexy it is to hear your partner make noises. It's the same for us. If you're a guy who's quick, don't be ashamed to use some toys on her off and on. It really helps with your pacing. Also start taking your time when you're masturbating. Usually being quick comes from conditioning when you were younger and you were just trying to get to the end. Edit, bad grammar. Don't know how to dirty talk? It can mostly be broken down into a conversation with your partner about how dirty the talk, and 1 question, you like that? 2 confess/comment, I like it when you do it like that. 3 command, yeah do it like that. If you're going down on someone and feel a hair in your mouth, lick the inside of their thigh to get it out discreetly without ruining the moment. Wash your hands and don't eat something spicy beforehand. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, do not take more than suggested amount of Viagra. Check the box and hear from your doctor for the dosage. If you take too much of it, you won't get a bigger erection, but rather a longer lasting erection, like hours and hours, which is a condition called priapism. If you have an erection for that long you could develop gangrene, aka tissue death, in your dick. You will hopefully be smart enough to go to the hospital, where they'll try to give you drugs to wash away the effects of the Viagra, which are usually injected directly into your dick, and if that doesn't work they'll have to deflate your willy by manually sucking the blood out with a needle or through surgery. Smiley face, I can guarantee you that is not funny. Source, Med School. This really should seem obvious, but do personal hygiene before sex. Bro, it's dark outside, and you haven't brushed your teeth since it was last dark outside, and your mouth probably smells like lunch. Wash your butthole. Being vocal during sex, whether it's just talking dirty or communicating your needs, makes everything 100x better. Slow down and see how your partner reacts, especially with fingering. It's so much more pleasurable to build the anticipation. Watch for hips coming up, and listen for changes in breathing to guide you. If you're gonna finger blast your lady, keep your nails short, trimmed and filed. Ladies don't like to get scratched by a rogue fingernail in their hoo-has. Tie off your condoms before throwing them in the trash, never flush them, that's a plumber visit you don't want. Ask what your partner likes instead of just guessing. Saves a lot of time. Pillow under her butt during missionary helps line everything up.